Hey, what's up, guys? Sports Take Show here. I'm Derek Wetmore. Matthew Coller's joining me with a couple of sports takes.
How about that?
Point of the show, yeah. Kirk Cousins, not that good of a quarterback. You guys had some fun this week on the Purple Podcast going over the history of terrible Washington quarterbacks. What challenges does Kirk Cousins pose for the Vikings this week, Matthew? Or is this just a simple, you got to win this game against a bad QB?
I don't think that it's Kirk Cousins that necessarily poses the biggest problem for the Vikings, but rather than all the people that he has to throw to. It's kind of like Matt Stafford, and I've come more and more around on this opinion that there are only about 5 quarterbacks in the league or less who can be given bad receivers, given bad offensive line, and they'll just be really good anyway. Probably Drew Brees. I think Cam Newton can mostly do that. Aaron Rodgers is struggling with it, but I think he still can have a good team even when everyone around him isn't having a good time. But everybody else, outside of the really bad quarterbacks where it doesn't matter, it depends on what kind of weapons they have to whether they succeed or not. And we saw it with Matt Stafford, that he's got a bunch of playmakers he gets the ball out to quickly. And I think that's the same case with Washington and Kirk Cousins, that he is not all that great, but when he's getting the ball to Jordan Reed or Jamison Crowder or Deshaun Jackson, I mean, there's just – and now Vontae Davis is on that team too. Vontae Davis, is that the right guy? Anyway, I mean, he's got all these people to throw to, and I think they can make plays after they get the ball. It's a lot of quick passes, and that's what the Vikings are going to be going up against.
You wrote about Crowder on 1500ESPN.com. Just a kind of quick column, one of those, hey, look out for this guy, film study, that whole deal. What do the Vikings need to look for? I mean, we've talked about Jordan Reed in the past. We talked about that on the Vikes Insight video this week, about how he's just going to be a tough matchup, but especially a tough matchup if they don't have Captain Munnerlyn as their nickel guy. What does Crowder bring to the table that the Vikings are going to need to pay attention to this weekend?
Real quick, Vernon Davis.
That's what I knew who you meant.
Sorry, everyone. Vontae Davis is a cornerback. My bad. That eliminates the hotness of the take. What was the question?
Crowder, what's he bring to the table?
Crowder is really quick. He's small, but he's Wes Welker-esque in the way that they use him. He is out of the shotgun. They use him a lot in the screen game and then over the middle. It's a little bit the way that the Vikings used Stefon Diggs last week, where he's running a lot of patterns that go underneath the zone, and when he gets the ball in his hands, he can make a lot of plays after that. He's a guy who was a fourth-round pick and undersized, not the fastest guy in the world, but it just has a natural playmaking ability. So if Captain Munnerlyn is not going to play, it'll demand a lot, I think, of the linebackers to be able to take him down, or of if Terrence Newman is in, or if they put in Mackenzie Alexander, whoever plays that nickel spot, they're in for quite a challenge with Crowder.
I've got an evolving theory on sports, and I've kind of gone away from being very cynical about this take to just slightly cynical. Homecomings. When players go to the place that they grew up and play a professional sports game. And here's how my old cynical take was, who cares? Every stadium's basically the same. You just know, especially in football. I mean, it'd be one thing if it was like high school lacrosse, where the arena actually does change from place to place, or like a golf course. That's a little different, but every football field's the exact same, and short of having a couple of friends and family in attendance that you wouldn't have otherwise had, there's no difference. I've come around on that a little bit, though. Stefon Diggs is, quote-unquote, going home this weekend, and I think it does matter to the extent that a player will allow that to get in his head, that he'll either psych himself out and not perform up to his standard, or really hype himself up and play better than you would have expected. Is there anything to that, or am I a crazy person?
No, there's nothing to it.
Nothing to it.
No, I don't think there is. Maybe I might say I would leave the door open for the possibility of someone trying too hard when they go back home.
You have 30 friends and family in attendance. You want to flex a little bit.
Yeah, it's a tough sell. I think we write that. I think we write that narrative after the game's over.
Sure.
I mean, a running back goes home and he gets stuffed behind the line of scrimmage a few times, like, he must have been overhyped, or they didn't block.
Yeah, his offensive line sucks.
If Stefon Diggs makes a bunch of catches, well, that'll be just like last week when he made a bunch of catches at U.S. Bank Stadium. Or if he doesn't, then maybe it was the quarterback's fault, or maybe they just stopped him from doing what he usually does. I don't think that there's anything to it, especially because of the level of professionalism of the players. I feel like a lot of those sort of ideas and even clutch might fall into this category to some extent, were established a long time ago when guys were so much less professional about this and so much easier pushed one way or another by stuff like that.
Thanks for raining on my parade.
Sorry.